You interact with this stuff dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day, and you probably don't even notice it. It's kind of like this invisible framework that holds our entire digital world together. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about what it is: metadata.
All right, so let's just jump right in with a question for you. Think about it for a sec. What do your photos, your favorite songs, and I don't know, your work emails, what do they all have in common? I mean, a picture from your vacation, that one song you've had on repeat all week, and the email you just shot off to your boss. What's the thread connecting all of those things?
Well, the answer is just one powerful little word: metadata. Yep, that's it. It's the secret ingredient, the magic behind the scenes that makes all of our digital stuff actually findable, usable, and, understandable. Okay, so let's start by really getting a handle on what this invisible organizer actually is. I mean, how does it work? Where do we actually see it in action in our everyday lives? So, if you had to boil it down, what is it? Well, the classic definition, and it's a good one, is data about data. It's not the thing itself, not the picture, not the song, but it's all the structured information about the thing. It's what gives it context, what gives it meaning. You can almost think of it like a digital index card for every single file you have. And this comparison here makes it super clear. So on one side, you've got the data, right? That's the actual text of an article, the pixels that make up the photo. But then on the other side, you have the metadata. That's the stuff about the article: who wrote it, when it came out, what keywords describe it. Honestly, without that metadata, the data is just, well, it's just a blob of content floating around in a huge digital ocean, totally lost. And the thing is, you use this stuff constantly without even thinking about it. I mean, every single photo on your phone, it's packed with metadata: the date it was taken, what kind of camera you used, even the exact GPS location. Your music files have the artist, the album, the genre. Your emails have the sender, the subject line, the timestamp. Heck, it's even how you find a physical book in a library. It is literally everywhere, just quietly working in the background to make our lives easier. All right, so now that we have a pretty good idea of what it is, let's break it down a little bit more. Because, see, metadata isn't just one monolithic thing. It's usually broken down into three main types, or pillars, and each one has a really important and very different job to do. So the first pillar is what we call descriptive metadata. And this is probably the one you're most familiar with, even if you don't know the name. Its entire purpose is to help us discover and identify stuff. It basically answers the question, hey, what is this thing? So a book's title, the author's name, the subject keywords you punch into a search bar, yep, that is all descriptive metadata doing its thing. Okay, next up, we've got our second pillar: structural metadata. Now, this one is all about how a resource is put together, how it's organized. It's the one that answers the question, how do all the pieces of this fit together? A perfect example is an ebook. The structural metadata is the invisible instruction that tells your reader that chapter 2 comes after chapter 1, and chapter 3 comes after that. It's what gives it, well, structure. And that brings us to our third and final pillar: administrative metadata. Think of this one as the manager, the one handling all the logistics behind the scenes. It's all about managing a file over its entire life. So it answers questions like, how can this be used? And how do we make sure it lasts? This is where you find all the technical stuff, like the file format, when it was created, and really critical information like copyright and who has the rights to access it. This is the stuff that makes sure a file is actually usable and can be preserved for the future. So you've got these three pillars: descriptive, structural, and administrative, all working together. But so what? Why does it matter? Well, this is where we zoom out and see the really big picture: how metadata is basically the glue that connects our entire global web of knowledge. So what does all this teamwork actually do for us? Well, it powers three absolutely critical things. First off, resource discovery. It's what lets you find that one specific article in a database of millions. Then you've got interoperability, which, yeah, is a bit of a jargony word, but it just means that different systems, like your university library and Google Scholar, can talk to each other and share info without a problem. And finally, there's digital preservation. This is what makes sure that a digital thesis or an old photo is still accessible and authentic for, generations to come. But here's the catch. For all that interoperability to work, for all these different systems to talk to each other, they have to speak the same language, right? You can't have one system calling it an author and another calling it a creator. It would be chaos. And that's exactly where metadata standards come into play. They're like the shared grammar and vocabulary that everyone agrees to use. And of course, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Different jobs require different tools. For example, you've got something called MARC. It's super complex, very high level, and it's what libraries have used for decades to create incredibly detailed catalog records. But for most things on the web, that's overkill. So you have something much simpler, like Dublin Core. It's just a simple, flexible set of 15 basic elements, which makes it perfect for describing web resources quickly and easily. I think this quote really nails it. Metadata acts as a bridge, connecting vast collections of knowledge with the users who need them. It's not the destination, it's the bridge that gets you there. It's not the knowledge itself, but it's the thing that connects us to the knowledge. Okay, so that's the what and the why. But where are we heading? Let's wrap things up by looking at the future, and one of the biggest challenges that metadata is facing right now. And here is the big problem. Just look at this. Even though we know how crucial it is, the vast majority of stuff on the internet has no formal, structured metadata at all. That big bar, that's content without it. And that tiny little sliver, that's the stuff with it. And the reason is simple. Making good metadata takes time and effort. And frankly, a lot of people just don't do it. This is a huge reason why searching for things online can feel like looking for a needle in a haystack. The info might be out there, but if it's not described well, search engines have a really hard time finding it for you. So, how do we start to fix a problem that big? Well, there are two really interesting trends to watch. The first, and it's a big one, is using AI. We can train artificial intelligence to basically read or view content and then automatically generate the metadata for us, which could be a total game changer. The other big idea is something called linked open data. The goal there is to build a web that's not just a web of documents, but a web of connected data, which would make discoveries way more powerful and contextual. And all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. We live in a world that is just drowning in data. There's an unimaginable amount of it. And in that kind of world, maybe the most important skill isn't creating more data, but being able to find the right data when you need it. So as our digital universe just keeps expanding like crazy, you have to wonder, is high-quality metadata, the data about the data, actually becoming more valuable than the data itself?